past few years. That depth is there. Those guys will be getting a lot of playing time early and often.
All right, Fresh. Our number 2 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. 11-2 last year. Ryan Day taking over for Urban Meyer. Ryan Day's been there for 3 years now. It's kind of weird to think about that. This team is now 3 years removed from Urban. Returns maybe the most. I don't know if you have a better three-headed monster in the country between C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. All of us saw Njigba's Rose Bowl games, 350 yards, multiple touchdowns, just insanity. C.J. Stroud, there's a lot of questions on him going into the season. 44 touchdown passes. They do lose Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, both to the first round of the NFL draft. But you have some guys coming in. They've recruited very, very well at the wide receiver position. The biggest question to me is, can Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State fix this Ohio State defense? And we go back to that week 2 loss versus Oregon. On paper, it's a 7-point loss. But if we go back and listen to the tape, that defense was awful. That defense was absolutely terrible. And then you go flash forward to the Michigan game. Michigan beats Ohio State 42-27. That's not supposed to happen. The defense is there. Ohio State's got a tough schedule this year, and they got to be better. They were 97th against the pass last year. What about you, Fresh? How do you see this year for the Buckeyes?
Well, I figure from a skill position, this offense is on a mission. They're ready to light up the scoreboard. I think they're angry. They know they didn't show up fully versus Oregon, and then they sort of hung that on. But then there's games where, look at that Michigan State game last year. That game was over in the third possession. It was 21-0 in 3 minutes in the ball game. We thought it was going to be a big game. This offense is going to score with anybody. If you watch the Rose Bowl, you know they're going to score with anybody. The Michigan game, I think, is the biggest fuel of the entire thing, though. We've heard it. They've been talking smack. They have the little, they put stuff on there. They put a little lapel on their rings about how they beat Ohio State. It was a big deal. One out of the past 12 years or 10 years or whatever it is. They released their demons, but I think Ohio State's now about to get revenge and start a new series of wins. In that game, you mentioned the defense and how they let Corum and Haskins run all over them, but the defense wasn't the only problem. The offensive line was getting collapsed at times, and Stroud had tough time to sit back and throw, and that's kind of set up short fields and short possessions and allowed Michigan to take control. If that offensive line can get a little bit better, give them a little more time, and that defense can improve just a little bit, that offense is going to score 40 points a game. And if you can just give up 30, you win every football game 40-30, you'll be fine. Marvin Harrison II, that number 2 receiver, I think is interesting to watch among the other recruits, but they're going to be ready to light up and make it happen right off the bat. The season, they open up with the Irish at home, but the season's really a 5-game stretch, starting with Wisconsin on September 24th, then Rutgers at Sparty, bye week, host Iowa, and then Penn State on basically the Halloween weekend, 10/29. That's going to be the stretch that really defines this football team. Watch out for Rutgers, because that's the one game in between Wisconsin and Sparty, and then you have the Iowa Penn State. Like that game, Greg Schiano can coach some defense, and he's done some decent recruiting to help build that program back up. So watch that. That's going to be the one game that's kind of sneak in there and catch them if they're young. I think they're going to be perfect through that, though. I don't see them having issues with Northwestern or Indiana or Maryland, and they're going to get the game at home in the Horseshoe. They just need to do what they need to do, focus. I think they are better on paper than Penn State. They have a better offense than Penn State. I don't think Penn State's defense on paper right now, on the middle, late June, is going to be able to hold them. They might be improving as the season goes on, but I think this year, Ohio State needs to know they can't give Michigan any light. Michigan had a lot of players leave. They cannot let them get back and take over and dominate. They can't let Michigan State get a hold because they're starting to build a recruiting base there. They can't let Penn State recover. They've got to be able to shut it down. Last year was their 1 year. Everyone had their chance, if you will, and they've got to be able to, all right, we're done. We're back in control. This is us. We are not just the Big Ten East rulers. We are the Big Ten rulers. I don't see anyone in the West truly giving them any fits. I don't see Iowa giving a problem in the Big Ten championship game. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska. I don't see any of them truly manning up and giving them a brawl. If they can make it to Indianapolis, take care of that business, they're in the playoff. And this team is going to be 12-0, going to Indianapolis. It's college football player for bust for them, and then let the chips fall where they may from there. I think this team is a very, very good football team. As much as I have expectations, I'm just going to say it right now. If Ryan Day does not win the Big Ten this year and does not get his team back in the playoff, for what he's getting paid, big as a thing in Ohio and big a thing in the country is Ohio State football. his job might be on the line, and rumors might start popping up, and he'll start dealing with that because it is ripe for the taking, and you have the talent. We know C.J. Stroud's going to the pros after this season, and Jigba's going to the pros after this season. Henderson's going after a year after that. So your window, you're going to keep recruiting at a high level, but you've got to get it done now. You can't let anyone else get a leg up on you or continue to rise. You've got to squash it and take advantage of the situation now. This team will be in the playoffs undefeated, and if they aren't, Ryan Day is going to have to do some serious answering of some questions.
I'm gonna say that they got one loss in there. I'm gonna say that they go 11-1 the regular season. They're still gonna wind up in Indianapolis playing for the Big Ten title game. To me, this schedule's a gauntlet though to me, and I'm looking at it going. You start the game off, you get Notre Dame at home, you get Wisconsin at home, you get Iowa at home, and you get Michigan at home. Traveling up to East Lansing is not easy, and I'm always terrified going to Happy Valley at night. That's going to be a night game. It's going to be a whiteout. I don't like those games. I really don't. They make me nervous. And that's going to be a very, very tough game, especially for what we think is going to be a very much improved Penn State team. I think it comes down to the defense. I really do. Because, like you said, Fresh, this is going to be one of the best offenses in the country, no matter what. They're going to put up some points. They're going to be really, really good. And maybe this isn't a bad thing. They're realistically only bringing back 4 or 5 starters on the defensive end. Their defense wasn't that great. And you could talk about whether it was a scheme issue with Kerry Combs. You could talk about whether it was a talent issue, whatever it was. And former Buckeye Dustin Fox used to say this all the time, says the Ohio State needs to bring back what was always known as the Silver Bullets defense. That's what they have to return to. They have to return to the Silver Bullets. They have to have that speed, and they are recruiting those people. This could be an interesting year for the Buckeyes. I'm almost going to say it with you there, playoffs or bust. You better be in that conversation. You better be in that conversation, or I don't think Ryan Days would lose his job going into next year. I think that there would be a little more chatter than what anyone would really like. But Fresh, I was